Hey guys, welcome to the video. Salt here. Today we're going to be going over the melee weapon, the Glaive Prime. Now in this weapon series, I take a weapon, I build it out, and I test that weapon on its own merits, meaning I don't mix it with any kind of external factors that would increase weapon performance. That would be things like Warframes using abilities, pets putting statuses in enemies, things like that. I just test the weapon built out by itself, and I let the viewer make their own intelligent conclusions about adding those external things. Now, when I do melee weapons, I usually add one external, and that is a pet that melee primes for me. And it's just because most melee weapons will use a mod called Condition Overload. And so to show a build without Condition Overload actually functioning would be a little bit disingenuous. However, Condition Overload does not work on Glaive explosions. And so for Glaive builds, I'm going to do it like I do ranged builds, so no externals whatsoever, no pet priming for me. I was going back and forth today between doing Glaive Prime and Onada? Is that what it was? Oh no, Orvius. It was either Glaive Prime or Orvius today. And the Orvius, I started thinking I was going to do the Orvius video today, but it's a very, very complicated weapon. I need a little bit more time on the Orvius before I feel comfortable putting a video out on it. I think the Orvius is going to be one of the weird glaives that's actually a direct hit glaive. So you would be able to use Condition Overload on the Orvius if it turns out that that's the build I go with. I'm not entirely sure yet. I have to do a lot more testing. So we're doing the Glaive Prime today. It was suggested by commenter Old Potato, and that's why we're doing it. We have the top commenter of the last video, BioLucker4245. And the first commenter of the last video, Formo7X. Alrighty, let's get into the Glaive Prime build. Yeah, it looks like a cool little weapon here. Most of the glaives, they look very similar. They're kind of like a little chakram circular kind of weapon. Okay. Let's go over the interesting and unique things about the Glaive first. So, the Thrown Glaive and the explosion from the Thrown Glaive has forced impact and slash procs. The forced slash procs are why people consider the Glaive Prime to be so, really so good because of the forced slash procs. What a forced slash proc means is that it doesn't matter what your status chance is. You're going to get that as long as it hits an enemy. So, I know this says 48%, but even if this said 0%, as long as it is a forced slash proc, it's going to happen. And what forced also means is it doesn't compete with elements that are on the weapon. So, like, let's say electricity, for instance. If the glaive, the electricity and the slash are about the same value here, except they have to compete with each other because this is a natural slash. This is a slash that would occur because of the status chance. So if you do get a status, which is only going to happen 1 out of 2 throws because of the 48% chance, there's a kind of a 50-50. I know there's other statuses here too, but let's just look at electricity and slash. There's like kind of a 50-50 whether you get electric or slash. Well, when you have a 4 slash proc, you can get electricity and slash on the same throw. Of course, it has to roll electricity. If it rolls slash, then you get 2 slash procs, basically. Okay. The Glaive Prime also has innate blast on the explosion. So if we look here, I scroll down a bit, it has blast, which is really nice. And again, it's nice that we have the forced slash because the forced slash is not going to compete with the blast. Okay, and that's about it. That's about it there. Doesn't seem like a lot of unique things, but that force slash is really, really juicy. Okay, let's get into the mods here. We're going to start with Sacrificial Pressure for flat damage and a little bit of crit chance. The reason we get a little bit of crit chance, even though it doesn't say it, is because this is a set mod with Sacrificial Steel. So by having Sacrificial Pressure and Sacrificial Steel, you can kind of look at Sacrificial Pressure as 137.5 melee damage plus, I don't know exactly what it is, maybe 50-ish crit chance. So we use Sacrificial Steel for crit chance. Amalgam Organ Shatter for critical damage and heavy attack wind-up speed. Power Throw. The plus through punch through doesn't matter for us, but the bottom part of this, the on consecutive throw, max stacks up to 3 times. You get 100% throw damage. This throw damage is multiplicative. It's not fully multiplicative like some sources are, though. Like, it does not double dip on status procs like certain multiplicative sources do, but it's still multiplicative. It's still very, very powerful. Power Throw is a little bit complicated. I have to go to the simulacrum after I show you guys this build and just do a quick rundown on how to use Power Throw. If you know how to use Power Throw already, you could skip that part. I'll have it timestamped, don't worry. But if you don't know how to use Power Throw, you should watch that, because Power Throw can either be completely useless and be a dead mod slot if you don't know how to use it, or it's like the best mod on this build. You know, it's one or the other, depending on if you know how to use it or if you don't. Okay, Voltaic Strike is going to be our electric 60/60. The reason we use Voltaic Strike is because we're using a arcane called Melee Influence, and we need electric on our weapon to activate Melee Influence. Let me explain it here. So Melee Influence on a melee electricity status, 20% chance for elemental melee status effects to apply to enemies within 20 meters for 18 seconds. So it's very good. This has consistently been a top tier arcane. It's very hard for other arcanes to beat this out. Corrupt Charge. We're using this for the plus 30 initial combo. The negative 50% combo duration doesn't really matter, but the plus 30 initial combo will get us into ×2 combo multiplier. Because this is an explosion build, like most Glaive builds are explosion builds. When you explode your Glaive, it counts as a heavy attack and you lose all of your combo. And so having initial combo lets you start at ×2. It doesn't seem like a lot, especially when you think other melee weapons can get to ×12. But ×2 is actually still a pretty significant amount. So that's why it's still worth having on the weapon. And actually, initial combo is really good. You should probably even look at that. Look for that in a Riven. I'm sorry. Having a hard time speaking today. So that's why we use Corrupt Charge here. In the next slot here, we're going to be using Volatile Quick Return. There's a lot of stats on this that we don't care about. We don't care about the -4 bounce. That doesn't mean anything to us. We don't care about the plus 100% chance to explode on a bounce. That doesn't do anything for us. The only thing we're using Volatile Quick Return for is this middle part, the +3 blast radius. So without Volatile Quick Return, we have a 4.8 meter explosion range. And with Volatile Quick Return, we have a 7.8 meter explosion range. So almost 8 meters. Okay, and in the very last slot here, or not the last slot, we still have the 2 up top, but in this slot here, we have Killing Blow. Killing Blow is going to give us 120% melee damage on a heavy attack. We're always going to be heavy attacking because this is a explosion Glaive build, and the explosion part of it is considered the heavy attack. And 60% heavy attack wind-up speed. So there's an option for this slot to use the new mod that came out, Melee Elementalist. So Melee Elementalist is 90% status damage and 60% heavy attack wind-up speed. So the wind-up speed is the exact same. So this one's 90% status damage. Killing Blow is 120% melee damage on heavy attack. Killing Blow will be better than Melee Elementalist until you are a bit further into your mission. So if you're like an hour plus into a survival, the Melee Elementalist will probably start beating out Killing Blow. If you're doing a mission that scales very quickly, like Cascade, for instance, Melee Elementalist will probably very quickly be better than Killing Blow. So the reason is most enemies, even on Steel Path, like even an hour into a survival, most enemies are just going to be a one-shot. And so even though you're getting slash procs and they're very good, a lot of enemies are still going to die before they either take a single tick, or maybe they take one tick and they just straight up die. So Melee Elementalist only really becomes better than Killing Blow when enemies can take 2 ticks of damage. So when enemies are strong enough and have enough health that they can take 2 dot ticks before they just fall over. That's when Melee Elementalist becomes better than Killing Blow. So just keep that in mind. Both of these are very good. It depends on the content you're doing. Are you going closer to level cap? You might want to put Melee Elementalist on there. Are you just doing like an hour survival? Killing Blow will probably beat Melee Elementalist out. Okay, the other thing to consider, and a lot of you guys know this already, but I always get this on my builds, faction mods. So I don't do my builds with faction mods because faction mods require you to switch your build like every mission depending on, you know, what you're going up against. And I like to make general builds. And so I don't use them. But faction mods are very powerful on dot builds because they get more value out of dots. And so you do have to consider faction mods, especially on the Glaive Prime where you know, you get that force slash. So you're always going to be having almost always going to be having a dot ticking unless the enemy just insta dies. So faction mods are really good. You know, and also, this works for damage as well, not just dot damage. So it's damage and dot damage, but it's very powerful for dot damage. So you have to consider faction mods depending on what faction you're going up against. If you don't want to use faction mods, that's completely fine. I'm going to have my build without a faction mod because I don't like switching my builds up. But just consider that these make it a lot more powerful because of the slash procs. And best slots for faction mods, again, is going to either be this Killing Blow slot right here, but then you're going to have to fight over whether or not you want to use Melee Elementalist over it or not, or the Volatile Quick Return slot. This one kind of sucks to replace because you lose out on the +3 blast radius, but you get more of a damaging... You get more damage in a more condensed area, if that makes sense. So... It sucks getting rid of Volatile Quick Return. I would almost consider maybe trying to get a Riven that would let you condense some stats down and like get a free mod slot for some reason. Like maybe you got a Riven that had flat damage on it or something. And so you can get rid of Sacrificial Pressure. And maybe it had like flat damage plus electric, right? So you got like rid of 2 mod slots pretty much. I'm not sure. You know what I'm trying to say. You free up a mod slot so that you can fit your faction mod in without getting rid of Volatile Quick Return. Killing Blow is going to be the better spot to replace, but then again, you're just fighting over whether or not Melee Elementalist now, you want that over a faction mod. So just consider those. Or if you don't want to consider the faction mod or Melee Elementalist, just use the build like I have here. This is going to be the build that I'm going to go with. This is going to stay on my Glaive builds, and this will work perfectly fine. The stance, Gleaming Talon, doesn't really matter. You can use either one, Astral Twilight or Gleaming Talon. Doesn't really affect the Throne Explosion. And the Exilis, I'm going to go with Dispatch Overdrive. This is on a heavy attack hit. You get plus 60% movement speed for 15 seconds. You're always going to be heavy attacking, so this is just always going to be a 60% movement speed buff. There is an option to use Whirlwind. So Whirlwind is technically a DPS increase because, you know, if you can throw the Glaive faster, that means it can get to its target quicker, and so you can throw it again quicker. So, like, it's technically a DPS increase Whirlwind in the Exilis slot here. But you need to consider Power Throw. So Power Throw, you need to be able to catch your Glaive. So you're going to throw it, you're going to explode it, and then you need to be holding E when you catch it, when it comes back to you. It's not that difficult at medium or longer ranges to catch your Glaive with Whirlwind, but at shorter ranges it becomes much more difficult. So I personally do not like Whirlwind. I feel like it actually hurts my DPS because it makes it harder to catch my Glaive at closer ranges. But if you think, you know, you're really good at it, you could use Whirlwind. This is technically a DPS increase. Whereas Dispatch Overdrive is just, it's not a DPS increase. It's just a little comfy mod to make you run around quicker. Alrighty, and then in the Arcane slot, we already talked about this, Melee Influence. This is just to spread some electric procs, do some good damage. Alright, I think that's pretty much everything there. I want to go to the Simulacrum real quick, show you guys Power Throw and how to do that.
true hunter. Where would the sanctuary be without you?
And again, if you have watched other Glaive videos, it's going to be the exact same thing. So you could always skip this. If you watch other Glaive videos, go ahead and skip ahead. If you haven't, you should watch this because this is a big damage increase if you do it appropriately, and it is 0 damage increase and just a waste as mod slot if you don't do it appropriately. So I'm just going to summon in 20 Exo Ghost Eggs. Okay. So I have no buffs on myself right now, right? If you look in the top right, there's no buffs. So I'm going to throw this and focus on an orange number. Okay, focus on an orange number when you see the numbers pop up. What did I see? 10,000? I think I saw 10,000 there. Okay. So let's let our buffs fall off on the top. So we got 10 seconds. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get to 3 stacks of power throw. I'm going to turn around and detonate it again over their heads. And we're going to see what the damage number is then. So I thought I saw 10,000 with no buffs. So let's get the 3 stacks power throw. All right, 43,000. So that's a pretty large increase in damage there. Pretty large increase in damage from 10,000 to 43,000. So let's show how to use power throw. I'm going to kill these guys. So what you're going to do is you need to catch your glaive. So if I just throw it normally and it comes back to me, nothing. There's no buff in the top right, right? I throw it. Comes back to me, there's no buff. Even if I explode it, throw it, explode it, come back to me, no buff. What I have to do is I have to hold E, or I don't know what the button is if you're on controller. Make sure you let us know in the comments. That way other controller players maybe know. But you hold E when it comes back to you. So now I'm going to throw it, explode it. I'm holding E, throw it, explode it. Holding E, look in the top right. Now it's going to 1 times, 2 times, 3 times. It'll stay at 3 times. I can basically stay at 3 times forever here. As long as I hold E when it comes back to me. Let's see what happens if I don't hold E, though. Boop, the buff falls off, and I have to start over again. Okay, so that's how you do power throw. It's not very hard to keep yourself, like, decently stacked up. It'll become muscle memory after a certain point. It is a lot harder, though, at closer ranges, because at closer ranges, of course, your glaive is, like, flying back at your face a lot quicker. And so at closer ranges, it's a little bit more difficult to like hold E immediately. I can still do it here though. Like I'm still basically at 2-3 times. Yeah, I'm at 3 times. But that's why I said just be careful using Whirlwind. Whirlwind could make closer ranges much, much more difficult. The long range is still okay on, but closer range becomes much, much more difficult. You know, you can always train yourself muscle memory to even catch it at close ranges though, so it's up to you. All right, that's how you use power throw. I'm going to go ahead and go back to Orbiter. All right, so we're going to do 10 minutes of Steel Path Mott. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do it on a Big Dumb Anaros with no Archon Shards that increase weapon performance. No mods or arcanes on the Anaros that increase weapon performance. And with a pet with no sentinel weapon and no mods on the pet that increase weapon performance. All right, let's switch to solo Steel Path Mott. Yeah, I started off with trying to do the Orvius today, and oh man, that thing was confusing. Very confusing. I need a little bit more time on it before I put a video out. I'll still put it out this week, but I need like another day or two to kind of mess with it before I feel comfortable.
Life support has been cut off. They're trying to choke you out. Hold on. I'm sending auxiliary life support.
And, you know, don't be too worried if you don't catch your glaive every single time. Especially if you need to move locations. Like, if you need to, you know, move from pack to pack, there's no point, like, throwing the glaive in the air just to try to like maintain your buff. Just for the most part, when you're fighting, try to catch it. But if you don't, or if you make a mistake, no big deal. Doesn't matter. Or like that, where I just threw it to the thing right in front of my face and screwed it up. Yeah, I have a feeling the Orbius might be a direct attack glaive, which would be pretty interesting. It would be interesting to have a glaive that's not just another explosion glaive, because I feel like that's like most of the glaives are just throw and explode, and the only difference is like minor stat differences, you know, or like one starts with some kind of innate and one doesn't. You know, like Azorus was actually really powerful with the Force Electric, because that lets us spread corrosive everywhere with just a toxin mod, and still electric. But like that's the only big difference between like, you know, this and the Zorus, is that the Zorus is Force Electric, this one's Force Slash. Like there's not big differences there. So if the Orbius is a direct attack glaive, that's interesting. I don't think it would be better than any of the others, because I think a direct attack glaive is still going to be a little bit subpar to these explosive ones. But it would just be interesting if that is the proper way to build the Orbius, to have a different kind of glaive that's not just another explosion. I'm going to put some status immunity on because I keep getting whacked around. That's the only thing that ability does. Well, it gives me some armor too, but that's it. I like variety in the game. I hope the Orbius ends up being a direct attack, just for the sake of variety, right? Not just be another explosive glaive. You know what we need? We need an Incarnate Glaive. Do we have one yet? I don't think we have an Incarnate Glaive. That would be amazing. Maybe I'm talking out of my butt. Maybe there is an Incarnate Glaive and I'm just having a brain fart right now, but I'm pretty sure there's not. We have the Acolyte coming out. Probably could have one-shot him if I had a full three stacked power throw. I only had a 1 stacked power throw when I hit him. So maybe if we get another Acolyte, I'll try to like purposely get a 3 stack power throw and not screw it up like I've been doing. Put on some more status immunity here. For this week, we have the Bolter Prime Incarnate coming out this week for a video. We're going to have the Orbius this week, and we're either going to have Garuda or Baruch. I don't know which one. I'm kind of leaning towards Garuda because I have a lot of experience on Garuda, and so the video would be a little bit easier for me to make. And Baruch, I don't have a lot of experience at all, so it's going to be like an entire 12-hour research and testing process, which I'm completely okay with. I'm going to do Baruch either this week or next week, so like it's going to happen. But you know, I'm lazy sometimes. I'm like, you know, hey, maybe Garuda will be easier. I can probably get her video done in like 4 or 5 hours. Whereas Baruch is going to be an all-day process. Again, just because I don't really play Baruch, so I have to lurk in dark corners of the internet and learn all the secrets, the Baruch secrets. Whereas Garuda, I know most of them already. And then we had Hildren that was suggested, so Hildren will be coming out probably, you know, after we do Garuda and after we do Baruch. We'll have Hildren to do, and I have a lot of experience on Hildren. Hildren is one of my most played Warframes, so that I'm super excited about. Hildren and Garuda I probably have the same amount of experience on. I've played both of them a crap load. This thing is so powerful. So powerful. Got enemies that keep, like, getting right in my face and, like, screwing up my power throw combos. Like, I'm doing a good enough job screwing up my power throw combos myself, guys. You don't need to screw me up anymore. All right, 2 more minutes. Yeah, I mean, if you don't feel like using faction mod, don't worry about it. Faction mods will make it a lot more powerful, though. But, you know, if you're like me, I'm not a faction mod person. I hate switching up friggin' builds for every faction, especially now that there's 5 factions in the game. So, you know, don't worry too much about it. But if you're like seeking to go to level cap or like to do super high-end content, which is basically level cap, then you should use a faction mod. But at that point, you know, you're... Ooh, I probably... No, I don't think Glaives can down yourself with Malice. I think it's only, like, actual range weapons. It's not that hard anyway. You could probably take the tutorial weapons to level cap. Level cap, it's kind of its own game. It's not really the same as, like, Steel Path Endurance. It's its own game. There's a lot of mechanics don't work, and the mechanics that do work are very powerful, but they don't do well in, like, normal Endurance content, so it's kind of its own, like, different game, Level cap, basically.
We will all share in this bounty.
All right.
Hold out as long
So we're at 1,163 kills. That means the Zorus did beat it out. But... You know, it's subjective. You know, the gameplay is always going to be different. Maybe I got better spawns on the Zorus. Maybe I didn't screw up my power throw combos as much on the Zorus video. But you have to consider the forced... So the Zorus is forced electric proc, and this one is a forced slash proc. They're both really good, especially like in high-end content. But the slash is going to bypass armor, but then again, the Zorus, you spread corrosive, so you're kind of stripping armor there too. So I don't know, the Glaive and the Zorus, the Glaive Prime and the Zorus are like really, really powerful. They're kind of neck and neck.
So we learn the importance of
Am I crazy for thinking that? Tell me if I'm crazy for thinking that the Zorus is neck and neck with the Glaive Prime. But maybe I am. Maybe I'm crazy for thinking that. That thing was pretty crazy, though. I'm interested when we do the. No one has suggested the Falcor yet, but I wonder if the Falcor. I can't remember if it is forced electric procs like the Zorus is or not. But if it is, then it could even be better than the Zorus, because I think the Falcor has better base stats than the Zorus does. So that'll be interesting. Yeah, so that was the Glaive Prime. Definitely an amazing weapon. Scored very good in kills, even though the Zorus beat it. It only beat it by a little bit. And again, that's just my gameplay. If I was to redo these 2 runs, I could always have a different result. So if you guys liked it, consider giving it a like. If you haven't subbed yet, consider subbing or tell me what I can do to earn your sub. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. All right.